According to the book, stereotyping involves members of one group attributing characteristics to members of another group. That is why, in our audiovisual presentation, we tried to focus on both images of stereotyping. However, we put the emphasis on the negative consequences. We also included that although it is hard to admit it, we all stereotype. Taylor and Porter maintain that stereotyping should be seen as a normal process that is a useful information processing tool in diverse societies. This is the second theory we included about stereotyping. According to the book, the difficulty arises when stereotypes carry a negative valence and are used to overgeneralize negative traits to an entire group of people when, in reality, few members of the group actually possess such traits. In this way, stereotyping can lead to prejudice, which we also included in our video. Similar to what we did with stereotyping, we explained what it is and gave examples of situations in which prejudice influenced students in the Hack University. By interviewing people at the Hack University, we came to the conclusion that almost every student has experience with stereotyping and prejudice. However, everybody sees stereotyping and prejudice in different ways.
Prejudice can lead to misunderstanding, negative emotions, discrimination, aggression, and hatred. As stated in the book Intercultural Communication by James W. Newlett, prejudice can lead to discrimination. A good example of discrimination in our video is the role play where two students are expressing their stereotypes about African Americans out loud by talking about their classmates who comes from that outgroup. It becomes discrimination as soon as one of the girls clearly states that she doesn't want to work with the guy because of his culture and because of where he comes from. When prejudice becomes an actual avoidance and inequality, then we're talking about discrimination in the work environment. What we're trying to do is to provide a brief notion of what these definitions really mean, how they influence students' lives, and what people should do to avoid them in order to feel more satisfied in an international environment like the Hague University. Finally, we included the illusory correlation principle, misunderstanding, which is defined when a single case of unusual behavior by a member of a rare group is sufficient to create a new association between a member and a group. We give a clear example how this could happen in one of the role plays where the Dutch girl introduces herself to the Chinese guy at the first day of school. Newlett also explains in the book how it is really easy to apply a stereotype to a particular outgroup because of the actions of just one of the members.
The goal of our audiovisual is to make people more aware of prejudice and how it influences daily life. We wanted to explain what it exactly is and where it arises from. And moreover, we tried to state as clearly as possible where it could lead to. And by stating all this, the main message we want to get across is that prejudice is something you should handle with great care. Our target group consists of students from the Hague University from the age 18 to and including 24 years old. And therefore in our video we put the emphasis on what kind of influence prejudice has on students in the Hague University. And the topic is so relevant to that since international students are often confronted directly with prejudice. And they can of course experience prejudice everywhere, but especially in an international environment such as the Hague University.
In our opinion, we have achieved our goal. In our audiovisual, we have included many aspects of prejudice which should make clear what prejudice is all about. Moreover, we included opinions and experiences of international students to emphasize the influence it has on the Hague University. The aim was also to show situations with which our target group can relate itself. By doing this, we showed what effect prejudice can have in different situations and that you should therefore handle it with great care. Especially the role plays in a video are a good example of situations that our target group might experience. They clearly show how prejudice can occur in the school atmosphere. The examples are realistic and prove our statements and definitions as well.
What would we do differently in terms of content if we had to do the assignment again? I think that if we had the chance to do the assignment again, we would try to include a very personal example. At the moment, our video is full of different examples and opinions of many people, and it truly covers many aspects of how prejudice can affect or influence people's lives. But however, a personal story would perhaps make people think even more about the topic. We would have to find a person who is willing to share his own experience or story with prejudice. Personal stories usually provoke deep feelings and thoughts, and sharing a real experience gives a very clear picture of how prejudice can affect people's lives. Since our final message is that prejudice should be handled with care, an interview including a personal story would be a very good addition to our audiovisual presentation.
Our topic was prejudice, and we worked and thought a lot about this issue. The critical question we came up with is how prejudice did affect us personally in our group work. We all are from different cultures and have our own values. As we explained in our assignment, everybody has prejudices or stereotypes towards other people. To make a project together was a really new challenge for everybody of us. At the beginning, we were not that much aware of it, and therefore it was quite difficult to start with a common project because no one knew how to deal with the other girls and how each of us thinks. But by working on the project and keeping in mind prejudice and stereotyping all the time, it made it clearer to us, and that as long as we are open to each other's values, thoughts and habits, the work becomes easier and actually quite fun. At the end of the day, it didn't really matter where each of us was coming from, because the important part was the goal we were trying to achieve. And by achieving it, we learned a lot about ourselves as well.
I personally learned a lot from this assignment. The most important thing for me is that I enriched my knowledge by working with people from different nationalities, which was an unforgettable experience. Moreover, now I can see the definitions of prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination in a new, different way. For the future, I will always try to see people as who they are, not as a part of certain culture. I have learned that stereotyping affects our lives in many aspects, and also it's a normal process, and everybody does stereotypes sometimes. But if we are trying to be more open-minded and towards other people from different cultures, we will altogether make our international environment a pleasant place to be.
As I said in my biography, prejudice is everywhere around us, and it's not easy at all to avoid it. One thing I learned is that people might come from different cultures and different countries, but if you're willing to find a way to communicate with them, then you end up realizing that people are people and they're kind of the same. So as long as you treat someone the way you would like to be treated as well, life can be much easier and more pleasant for everyone. And everyone has the right of their own opinion. So I also think that prejudice is something completely normal as long as you keep it to yourself and not let that influence your own work. If you're willing to open your eyes and see how much diversity changes life, then you will appreciate the uniqueness around you.
From this assignment, I learned that everybody has his or her own opinion towards other cultures and people, whether positive or negative. Like I wrote in my biography, prejudice to me is a more negative aspect of forming attitudes towards others.
Through our group work, I realized how prejudice develops and what the basic features are. It was quite interesting because I really thought about this topic, and I started to notice stereotypes and prejudices all around me. I even became aware of my own stereotypes and prejudices. But I learned that having stereotypes and prejudices is a normal process for humans. Because of my own experience, I know what prejudices and discrimination do to people and which feelings can arise from that. Therefore, I think our final message is quite important, since people form opinions about others without even knowing them and don't try to outgrow their prejudice. To my mind, people should start to talk with the people and not about them. This is important since getting to know people from another culture helps us to develop a tolerance and awareness of prejudices. I experienced this in our group work as well because I realized that people are only different as long as I have opinions about them without even knowing them.
The thing I learned from doing this assignment is that prejudice can have some severe consequences. I already knew that it was not a good thing to prejudice someone, but I had no idea that it was this serious. And as I mentioned in my biography, I've not personally experienced prejudice in an extreme way, and by doing this project, I found out that it can actually lead to discrimination and that it can hurt people. Last year I was also in an international program here at the University, and I already learned to work together with different cultures. And something specific that I learned about myself now is that I do still have some prejudice towards different cultures, and with it I also refer to some typical stereotypes. However, I do not take them too serious, and I almost never express them towards others. And for example, it would never be a reason for me not to talk to someone. And I think that I really took up the main message from our audiovisual, and that's like that we should handle prejudice with great care.
As I wrote in my biography, I come from an island where prejudice and discrimination is not often spotted. People live together as one. That means that before starting on this assignment, I wasn't really aware of the influence prejudice can have on others. Now that we made this assignment, it is much clearer to me what prejudice is and how it influences others. This assignment made me understand the difference between stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. I now believe that people start stereotyping to help their minds in processing and organizing all the information about these cultures, so that means that it doesn't always have to be negative. Later on, they form an opinion, and this leads to prejudice. In the worst case scenario, I think that that when they start acting according to their opinion, it could lead to discrimination. So practically, I think these three definitions are more of a process. You start doing one, and when deepening yourself in that one, you could end up doing the next one, and so on. So in the Hague University, has students all around the world. So that means that you are interacting with students from different cultures every day. After making this assignment, I know now that when communicating to these students, we need to be more open-minded and try not to formulate any kind of